Hello. Do you want people to begin to listen to you? Do you want to be able to communicate your wants and needs to others so they will really understand where you're coming from? Are you an active listener? Well, you're going to learn all about all of those right here on Ask Mary Ellen today because I am speaking about the miracle of communication. And communication is so very important. There are lots of different types of communication. Now, I'm going to speak about four of them. Of course, we have verbal or oral, we have nonverbal or visual, we have written, of course, and we also have, which I think is the most important part of communication, which is active listening. That is so important. And I'm going to go to all of these. And I'm going to start with verbal because how do most of us communicate? Yes, verbally. Okay. And you all know you want to enunciate your words clearly, have a tone of voice that people will listen to, and also speak at a pace where they will understand your words. Okay, verbal communication, you want to have a clear and concise message. You want to have words that whomever you are speaking to will understand. Okay, let me give you an example. If you are a parent, you want to speak in clear, concrete messages to your children because children or young people do not have something that's called inner speech. Now, inner speech is the ability to, when I say a word, you hear a picture or you see a picture in your mind. Okay. A child, before they learn to read, if you say a word that they do not know, they cannot translate that into a concrete image and you miscommunicate. Uh, for example, okay, let's say parents, you're having a party and you have Johnny. You have Johnny, he's maybe 4 or 5, and being a boy, he's quite rambunctious. Okay, and so he runs a lot. And during the party, little Johnny is just flipping around the house, saying hi to everybody, just running and running and running. And you go up to little Johnny and you say, Johnny, we don't run in the house. Okay. Johnny keeps running, 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 running. Because what he heard, there is a picture word for house. There is a picture word for run. But what is the picture word for don't? You're right, there's not one. So little Johnny just heard, wow, they want me to run in the house some more. Where if you took the same scenario and little Johnny is running and running and running, okay, and you took little Johnny by the hand and you said, Johnny, and you walk with him. We always walk in the house and you demonstrate it. Okay, Johnny clearly heard you. So then if he continues to run, you can send him to his room or do whatever you do as a parent. It's also like if I said the word Jaja to you, you're not going to have a picture word for that word unless you're Polish. My grandfather was Polish, and Jaja is Polish for grandfather. So I have a picture word for that word. So be careful when you're speaking to people who may not know English as well as other languages. And I really think in order to get your messages across, all of us need to use as many picture words as possible. You also want to keep away from negative words, like the don't with Johnny. And this is things like no, never, nothing, don't, can't. And a big one is but, because people know that when you say the word but, everything after that is going to be negative. And the example I give is, let's say I'm out and about and I come home and my husband's cleaned out the garage. What a wonderful thing to do when I'm not home. And I come home and he goes, look, I cleaned out the garage. Aren't you glad? And I look at him and I say, yeah, it's really nice, but I wish you'd cleaned out the basement. I just took everything he did that was wonderful and demolished it. In the same scenario, if I had come home and he said, look, I cleaned out the garage, isn't that wonderful? And I go, yes, oh my gosh, it is awesome. And next week, maybe the two of us can clean out the basement together. See, I used the word and instead of but, and I gave another example. So I am praising everything that he just did, which is what you always want to do. There's also a famous story about, I believe it's a World Series game, and the pitcher's on the mound, and there are two outs, and you need one more out to win the World Series. And the other team, they might tie him up, or they might go ahead if they hit the home run. So the manager comes up to the pitcher, and the manager says, whatever you do, don't throw a curveball. What do you think the pitcher threw? Yeah, he threw a curveball. The guy hit a home run, and the pitcher's team lost the World Series. And that is a true story. See, people really do not hear negatives. So you want to keep away from any kind of negative words. And especially your tone of voice, your enunciation, your volume level is crucial, and the rate of speed at which you speak. I always go over my videos after I do them, and I critique them. And I think it was last week or the week before, I was speaking too fast and a couple of words got garbled. I could not hear them as clearly as I wanted to hear them. So today I'm telling myself to slow down. Okay, then there is nonverbal communication. Of course, this has to do with pictures and graphs and charts, which are all really good visual aids. And nonverbal communication is also with your eyes, your facial expressions, and your body language. Because when you're a presenter and you have your shoulders back and you're standing up straight and you are ready, you're so excited about the topic you're going to speak about, then of course the audience or your listeners become excited as well. And if you're a presenter and you really don't want to present, let's say you haven't practiced, which is not good, and you're looking down at the floor or up at the ceiling and your shoulders are all hunched over, not good. Because why would they listen to you if you do not sincerely know your topic that you're going to speak about? Maintain eye contact with whomever you're speaking to. And watch your facial expressions. Like I said, after I do these videos, I look at myself without any sound to see, I talk with my hands a lot, and I learned that when I was teaching middle school. So yes, you will see a lot of hand movement and gestures. Yet I also try to speak to you as much as I can with my eyes and with my facial expressions. It's so important. And if people, when you are speaking, are looking at their phones or they're looking at their watches or they're rolling their eyes, number one, they're not listening to you. Number two, this is just totally rude, okay? It's just not what you should be doing. If you're in a lecture, yes, you might have a piece of paper and you take notes. I know a lot of YouTube videos you should take notes on because you might want to pass this material on. And before you do a live video, I know everybody probably gets nervous. Practice in front of a mirror. Do the video on tape once or twice before you do it for the live moment, like right now. Next, I'm going to talk about the most important part of communication, and that is active listening. Now, active listeners, of course, maintain eye contact. Active listeners Don't assume what someone's going to say and jump in and interrupt or overtalk. People who interrupt or overtalk or jump in with their own opinions, it's usually a learned behavior habit from childhood. Or, sometimes these people like to control the conversation. They like to be the center of attention. And sometimes they like to show that they're more intelligent than they really are. So, I had a bad, a lot of times in personal relationships, you'll interrupt because you get to know each other so much. So I'm bad about that with Pete. And I have to stop myself and say, oh, I'm sorry. It's something you have to practice to learn. So never over talk or keep away from over talking. I don't want to say that negative word never. Keep away from interrupting. Maintain eye contact. And you might even tilt your head. An active listener will tilt their head. And every once in a while, they're going to say, yeah, I understand completely. Because, that shows that you're listening. Of course, there's written communication, which we have today in text and emails. And then you also have them in essays or projects or a thesis. Some of these are more formal than others. You must be careful when you're writing, because I don't know about you, but sometimes I'll be writing a truth of the day. And after I've written it, I'll go back and read it and I'll think, I didn't type that word. But what happens? Yeah, your phone changes the word. Your phone thinks it's smarter than you are. So make sure you read everything. Make sure you have proper grammar and proper spelling, because that is where your miscommunications will take place. Now, I want to leave you with a few simple points to remember. Of course, verbal communication needs to be simple and direct. Look at your speech. Make sure that you are talking in words that people can understand. Picture words are great. Keep away from any negative words, especially but and don't. Nonverbal, it's always great to have a visual aid with you, okay? And look at your body language. How are you holding yourself? How's your posture? How's your head? How's your eyes? I used to do these videos, and after I looked at them, and every once in a while, I would look at the ceiling. And I would think to myself, why am I looking up? Why am I doing that? So I had to train myself. You have to practice to do better and to do differently. Active listening, like I said, is one of the most important and crucial parts of communication, because most people assume what someone's going to say or not say, and they'll jump away or jump in with their own opinions. 99% of all assumptions are false, always. So stay away from those assumptions. Really listen to what the other person has to say. If you have a question, you might write it down so you can remember it and ask them later. Written communication needs to be clear and concise, especially if it is a formal document or a paper. And email or text can be a little simpler, yet I do believe in proper spelling and grammar. Now, phrases that will help you with communication, especially in personal communication, are saying things like, what I need for me from you is. Because you're taking ownership of something. You're not blaming the other person. Well, you always do this to me. No, what I, Mary Ellen, need from you is. From you, you can say the other person's name and say it with as much love as possible. Know what you're going to say and practice it. Avoid all those you want to keep flowing with the conversation, and stop with all those sing-songy voices, such as, well, I came on today to talk to you about communication, because I like to talk about communication Quit that sing-songy voice. It drives me crazy. Anyway, just keep your dialogue flowing. And if you forget something in throughout your presentation, always have one of those little stories handy that you can throw in. Say things like, I hear you think I'm wrong. And that's okay. But can I tell you how it is for me? Or would you explain what you mean by that? Because when you really listen to someone, you will know everything about that person within the first 5 minutes. Because people are only speaking about what they know. People are always speaking about themselves. People that say things like, well, this isn't a reason, but, and the next thing they're going to do is give you a reason. I'm not trying to criticize you, and the next thing they do is criticize you. I know I shouldn't gossip, but the next thing they do is gossip. I'm not trying to increase the cost of what you're going to spend here, but, and then they tell you why you should pay them more. Listen, truly listen, and you will know everything you need to. You will not have any miscommunications. And if you hear something incorrectly, go back and say, hey, I heard you say, and rephrase it for them. So let's not have any miscommunications this week. Go forward and have tons of fun. I know I've been a little long today. Sorry about that. And I hope it was worth everybody's while. Picture words, no negative words, active listening, tone of voice, your eye contact, your body language, your facial expressions. Go forward, have some fun this week. And I'll be back later. Subscribe to the Ask Mary Ellen channel. Subscribe. Bye-bye.